To this point, the playoffs past series has had many stories speak about underdogs, and unsurprisingly, many of them won their battles against their favored foes. Perhaps it's in the nature of every playoff series to force its belligerents into one of those two roles, or the inclination of the spectator to do so. Playoffs past 7 is no exception. However, the 2-week stretch of games that unfolded in the late spring of 2009 was so wrought with action and nastiness and even history that it's easy to lose sight of the different positions of the two teams. But if you zoom out, it becomes apparent that those two second-round opponents were equally accustomed to victory, and recent victory. At the time, that showdown was the only playoff series since the conference format where the opponents weren't just opponents, but also the prior to Stanley Cup champions. The Ducks of the aughts were as up and down as they come, but since the lockout, they had managed to be consistently good. But for as successful of a team as they had been, winning a cup not 2 years earlier, they almost didn't make the dance in 2009. They were neck and neck with the Minnesota Wild, and were it not for some very clutch after-regulation points, accruing 3 extra points in the shootout and another 5 from extra innings in the last 10 games, they would be out. But they weren't out, so here we are. If they were to be anything other than a footnote this year, they would have the tall order of having to beat the President's Trophy winning San Jose Sharks, which is exactly what they did. The Sharks never led in the series. Heck, it was never even tied, and Anaheim took care of them in 6 games, prematurely ending what would amount to a very disappointing season for the West Capitals. Anaheim got kind of worked over in terms of play driving, but there are exactly 0 people who care about that, or should care, because they won. Like many good teams coming out of the lockout, the Ducks lineup was studded with both holdovers from the dead puck era and budding 21st century stars who look really funny since you're used to seeing them at like 35 or whatever. Young leader Ryan Getzlaf falls into the latter category. In his 4th season of 17 with Anaheim, he was making plays before I even knew what male pattern baldness was. Esteemed serial finalist Corey Perry hit the 30-goal plateau for the first time in his career. At 23 and in the first year of brand new contracts, he and Getzlaf had nowhere to go but up. At 35, 4-time All-Star Scott Niedermayer was still tearing it up offensively for Anaheim, and was looking to lead them to a second cup since winning it all in his sophomore season with the team. He'd have 6 feet and 6 inches of help flanking him on defense in the form of the omnipotent Chris Pronger, an absolute omega bastard on the ice, and an incredible boon for your team's chances of victory. He made the Stanley Cup Finals with 3 separate teams across 2 decades, and quite possibly could have done it a 4th time were his career not cut short. Finally, in net was someone who I consider to be very underappreciated on the whole, Jonas Hiller. Splitting duties with Duck legend J.S. Jaguar, he won out the starter's role coming into the playoffs, and posted a monster .957 save percentage against the Sharks. Hiller would have to bring a level of play equal to his showing against San Jose if the Ducks had even a shot of beating their opponent, the dreaded Detroit Red Wings. Look, the Red Wings have featured in like 3 of my videos already, so I'm going to keep it relatively quick. No team was as good as the Wings in the 15 years from 95 to 2010. No one. In fact, if you managed to eliminate the Red Wings in the playoffs in the last decade or so, that was more likely than not the highlight of your season. It would not be a highlight of the Blue Jackets season because they got freight trained. They found themselves down 3-0 in the series, having only scored 2 goals. They did not win the next game either. These were the post-lockout Red Wings at the peak of their power, and they were going up against a familiar foe. A severely underrated playoff rivalry, Detroit and Anaheim had faced each other 4 times already in the last dozen years. 1997 was a tight series that somehow ended up being a sweep despite requiring 6 overtime periods in 4 games. 99 was a sweep that deserved to be a sweep, and 2003 was a huge upset for the Ducks, one of the most shocking ever against the defending champs. And 2007 was a big, bad conference final matchup that the Ducks won in 6 on their way to their first cup. This is entry number 5. For the tiebreaker between one predictably good team and one bohemian team, between the last 2 Stanley Cup champions, for a berth in the conference finals. Ah, the good old days of nationally televised Joe Beninati. The world needs him now more than ever. But the Ducks and Wings put on their big boy shoes just for him, hungry to take the early series lead.
Wide of Chris Osgood. Chris Pronger loads it up, deflected off the post.
And first blood was eventually drawn.
Finding some room, a crisp pass for Perry to drive. He scores! Corey Perry.
The salary cap era was only 3 years old, and even then, Getzlaf and Perry were still teaming up. Unreal. Anaheim continued to push, wresting away momentum from the Wings early, but they'd give it all up on one infamous play.
In those days, very true. Oh, Hoodler got smoked at center by Mike Brown and stays down. Brown, the rambunctious winger for Anaheim, caught Hoodler.
Mike Brown delivered one of the biggest, most catastrophic hits of the 2000s playoffs on Jiri Hudler, and that is not an exaggeration. I mean, you could tell just from the sound of it. The problem is this hit was late. The puck's gone by over a full second. If Hudler has the puck or had just got rid of it, it's probably clean. I don't really think Brown gets his head. He might, but it's hard to tell. And as a result, both Mike Brown and Jiri Hudler would have to watch the rest of Game 1 from the sidelines. More consequential, Anaheim gifted all of the momentum to the Red Wings as they were assessed a 5-minute major for interference.
Did not handle Franzen very well. Franzen to the front. He scores!
Johan Franzen wasted no time making Brown and the Ducks pay, and you could tell he doesn't give a damn how Hiller's feeling after that collision. Pouring it on to end the first and into the second period, once the players got over the shock of the hit and the injury, they got real tired of each other real fast. You will see a lot of these shenanigans.
When you need a clutch save, Perry in the middle of this, wow, they're gonna go.
Jonathan Eriksson throwing the long rights and wrestling Perry down.
The best chances continued to favor the Red Wings, but Hiller got pretty lucky with a few friendly posts and poor shot placement to keep it even.
They're trying to go upstairs.
Nice hustle play. Cronwall steps in, fires! He's led this Red Wings team in scoring 4 straight years. Stewart fluffs the slapper. Lidstrom fires and scores! A bomb from the Red Wing captain. 2-1.
I'm convinced that there are 3 things that everybody on Earth likes. Girl Scout cookies, Wallace and Gromit, and Nick Lidstrom. Towards the end of the second, Anaheim kicked it into gear.
All the way to the point. Through the screen, deflected off the post.
You can see Evan just drift toward the front of the net. He was the guy that got a stick on.
And a pair of minor penalties were all their opportunistic team needed.
There with a pad. 20 seconds left to operate in the period. Ducks looking for the tying tally. Score! Solani!
The start of the third, thankfully, was more of the same.
Pronger says, I'll take it anyway. Stopped by Osgood. Step attempt on the rebound. And Osgood has that.
Wow, it's anarchy now.
Talking about the Wings' willingness to attack from odd angles. Here's Lebda from a severe one. Poke checked by Ryan on a takeaway. Ryan fires. Kick out save for Anaheim as well as Teemu Solani. Lidstrom steers it to the front. Pad save. Follow pitch. Score! Lidstrom in the final minutes!
With that last-minute collapse, the Ducks finally paid the price for losing momentum and the lead in the first period, and walked out of Joe Louis trailing 1-0. But Anaheim had been born into the playoffs behind the 8-ball, so it was nothing new for them, really. For this hit on Hudler, Mike Brown got ejected from the game, but faced no supplemental discipline. The national feed only showed this additional angle, so I can't really tell if Brown caught Hudler's head first or if Hudler went down like that because his balance was swinging around and thus offered no resistance to the force of the hit. But it was a controversial decision to say the least. The angle isn't enough for me to draw a conclusion either way, but it definitely was late and interference and caused an injury on the play. Thus, the ejection was warranted. Right out of the gates, Game 2 looked like a clone of Game 1. Every aggressive hit was met with a scoring chance the other way.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a chance in front. Oh,
An early power play for the Red Wings saw them just shellac Jonas Hiller with try after try. Until...
that one is deflected high again. Stewart tips score!
The opportunistic Ducks saw 2 absolutely brutal bounces cost them in the worst way. If the puck deflects off either shin guard just a centimeter in either direction, This puck doesn't go in. Brutal break. But Anaheim had already proven themselves to be a team that rises above such breaks.
They convert, but it's handed to Getzlaff. Tries to work his way around. Scores! Getzlaff!
All it takes is the enemy goalie overcommitting on one play, and you've got a goal. Tied is where these teams deserve to be at this point in the series, and it would show for the rest of the period.
Shot and score! May have been tipped in the front of the net, but a power play goal. Wall is able to bring it on. Locked off by Solani, good shoulder in the head. Led the play ahead, might be a 3-on-2. Ahead now comes Filppula, leads it over to Samuelson, backhander, score! Cannot pull just yet. Still working though, slamming one off the line.
Coming out of the intermission, the Red Wings all of a sudden seem to step behind.
Shot that went by rebound, score! Ryan Carter, power play goal. Rushing on his Josh Green penalty to the Red Wings. Green's shot just off the glove hand. Deflected on a cross, and here comes Solani. Save made by Osgood.
Into the third, the Wings desperately needed some kind of spark to tie the game and avoid a split on home ice. But still, they just weren't all there.
By Green and ricocheted off the pipe. Oh, it came just tantalizing to right in the slot. Able to turn behind. Down to the ice. Another shot from Getzlaff. Fed over.
Johan Franzen continued to just eat Hiller alive. Hiller is down early on this shot, and Franzen takes the opportunity to sink it up high. That was exactly what the Red Wings needed to pour it on.
Limping around is Wisniewski, and then a try by Hossa. Made by Hiller, and he covered. Zetterberg flipped one in front, then will be corralled by Getzlaff and given up for Milgram, and a save by Hiller.
But both teams equally showed their desperation, and the result was chaos.
By Osgood, rebound in front. Oh, and a big pile up there, and still it's loose, and then put to the corner. What chaos! Dug out and another shot. Rattled around into the glove of Osgood. It's ahead to Zetterberg. Pitched it along into the guy. Scott Niedermeyer. Zetterberg around in front. Stick with it again. Run along. Taken along behind by Perry. Back to Brunner. Save made by Osgood.
As was probably inevitable for these two teams, the shadow of overtime loomed large over the ice. The stakes? For Detroit, a tough hold on the series. For Anaheim, a split and the implosion of home ice advantage. The Red Wings dominated the first overtime.
Miller. Brought back on by Stewart now. Fires to Michael Miller. Franzen at the front of the net. Whitler gave it back. A rifling shot. In a shooting position, Kopecky across to Lidstrom. Drive up the chest of Miller. Turned into traffic. Back into wide from Datsu. Now Hossa threw one. Fought off by Hiller.
But they didn't turn on the red light, so it might as well have counted for nothing. Jonas Hiller was determined to make sure it would.
Shot fought off by Osgood. He has to get back into his goal, and that one deflected wide in front of him. By Lidstrom, came back to him across the center, and a shot is stopped. Miller was released back up, and Datsyuk tried to turn and take tumbled to the ice. Cut off and swung to him. Spin in front of Holmstrom, and it's blocked away. Speeds on ahead, met by the defense. Skates across, quick shot. Oh, swiped out of the air by Hiller. Hossa bent one, taken by Datsyuk. Deep slot, fed it over to Lidstrom. Closing in, and a shot. Fought off another try. Held at the side of the net by Hiller. Laid a pass on through that was off the breaking Kronwall. Hossa has to drop back on defense as this one is carried ahead to the outside. A shot. The Ducks have evened the series.
After all that, just over a minute into the third overtime, Todd Marchand beat Chris Osgood on a shot that he never saw. I don't know about you, but I get mad Maxime Talbot vibes from this goal. Either way, Jonas Hiller, professional bacon saver, had almost single-handedly willed the Red Wings to a series split, fending off 29 shots in overtime alone and 59 in the game proper. And now, having handed their opponent their first loss of the postseason, he and his bunch were on their way home. The physical tone of Game 3 would be set early. It seemed like everyone took a beating on their first shift.
So a mutual respect, that makes the great. A steal by Samuelson, cuts in, waits, he gets Hiller out, one-handed toward the net. Both teams playing very well. Here's Solani with a chance, get behind the defense, back in, he scores!
As time marched on, you could rely on one of three things happening every shift: a great chance, a big hit, or a scrum. And often, both. And it just kept going.
The Ducks, Green with a chance and a glove save by Osgood. And there is Brown, who delivered that big hit in game 1. Look out here, 2-on-1 with under 10 seconds to go in the period. Miller waits, he shoots, juggling, saved by Osgood.
Every single play.
The boards. Kopinski sends it across. Here is Helm, given a shoulder there by Boschman.
Put it that way.
Here's Stewart with a shot. Hiller gave up a rebound, couple of pops at it for the wing. Now it's covered up, and the whistle as Datsuk continues to spire. Back the other way, here's Datsuk again. Datsuk with a shot. Hiller juggles, but he hangs on. Wentz is going to end every shift. You have to be focused. Oh, what a hit.
A questionable interference call on this beauty from Brad Stewart sent Anaheim a man up. And on a day like today, that kind of a window is all either of these teams would need to dent the twine.
Picked up on a chance here, Osgood to save, rebound! Score!
Things have a way of evening out, and now it was Detroit's turn to be the victim of a goofy bounce. The prospect of all else being even in this series, given what viewers had seen from it thus far, would be tantalizing.
Some of their best sustained pressure so far in this game. Penalty coming against the Ducks. A drive, save, rebound, catch, Hossa! And sliding across.
Towards the end of the second, James Wisniewski would be carted off for a lung contusion, but fortunately he would return in the series.
Penalty, but he was also
incensed. Hilder back to the line, one-timer on the way, rebound, score! Henrik Zetterberg.
Seconds later, Zetterberg would get the Wings on the board with a goal that he scored without a stick. I don't believe I've ever seen that before. Afterwards, everyone picked up right where they left off.
Bucks there with Cromwell goes down. Brown centering pass was blocked by Stewart. Boschman joined the rush. Rishon here, save, rebound, and Osgood somehow able to stop Corey Perry right on the doorstep.
But the action sadly died down for most of the third, and the Red Wings quickly found themselves running short on time. Very short.
Cromwell sent it back in deep. A lot of the Red Wings have started to exit. Now the puck is picked up side of the net. Hiller down, puck is loose, score! Oh no! Oh, is this going to be a heartbreaker for the Red Wings? That puck was clearly loose.
In the final minute, who else but Johan Franzen crashes the net, and the puck is sitting right there. Nobody around for miles and miles. And the referee blows play dead. The Red Wings wouldn't get another look like that. Anaheim took a 2-1 lead in the series, and they had an equally sweet victory. They got the Red Wings to lose their cool.
And that is going to do it. The Anaheim Ducks, as Getzlaf and a couple of other players go after some of the Red Wings down there. And Pronger grabs a hold of Datsuk, and that brings Lidstrom, and now Cromwell's going to come down. And this is exactly what the Anaheim Ducks wanted to do.
Yeah, they are.
Hiller's birth name was Jonas, but you may call him God. He saved over 3 goals above expected, an unthinkable feat against a team like the Red Wings. ESPN's description of his performance marks the only time in sports journalism I've ever seen the word indefatigable. But nonetheless, each game to this point had been decided by one play. Game 1 was Lidstrom's late goal. Game 2 was Marchand's OT goal. And Game 3 was the quick whistle negating Hossa's late tying marker. Much of the tightness was due to Anaheim's stellar defense, who had limited the Hossa-Holmstrom-Datsuk top line to just 1 point all series. Frustration allegedly set in, and understandably so, for the Red Wings, who had just lost against Anaheim in 2007 and watched them hoist the Stanley Cup, and embarrassingly, further back, they were swept in 2003, watching the birth of the mother of all Cinderella runs. The wounds were still fresh, and if the Red Wings had their say, they wouldn't be opened again. Anaheim smelled blood in the water, and they let the Red Wings know it early and often.
Bobby Ryan, here comes Corey Perry, catching the wings on a change. Perry shoots, he scores!
47 seconds into the game, Corey Perry beats Osgood clean. There's no defending a shot that's well placed. Not from that guy. But that's not much consolation for the Wings. Their game was skill and grit, and Anaheim had successfully taken the series by controlling the between-whistle shenanigans and by capitalizing at key moments, again from a team that was more defense-oriented. It was still the Red Wings' game and series to lose. There's only one man for the job. I don't know what it is about Johan Franzen. Maybe that it's because he looks so cuddly. But he lives in Jonas Hiller's head. This cannot go in. But Franzen could also beat him squarely if he so desired.
Shot from the point, score! Franzen's shot was deflected in front.
Back-breaking, lead-taking, last-minute, sick deflection goal. How valuable was Johan Franzen, even in just the first half of this series? It cannot be understated. His confidence seemed to rub off on everyone.
Chelios intercepted by Green, a drive, and a save by Osgood, and popped out of the glove, loose in the blue paint. Who's got it covered? Slams attempted check, now Bronson slides it across 10 for Filppula. Oh, and it got behind Hillary.
Eventually, the Ducks finally found their game.
Slap, and that may have been deflected partially, and Perry hands it off for Getzlaff. Getzlaff running out of steam, drops it for Perry, drive, he scores! A broken play!
Just like the first 3 games of the series, Game 4 looked like it would take us all the way to the finish. But then...
Whitney, checked by Filppula, Bronson steals center, quick shot, score! Marian Hossa finally on the board!
one team finally managed to get a little daylight.
Hossa, quick shot, score!
Marian Hossa had the wherewithal to one-time swipe this puck at the net, knowing that Hiller was both screened and moving laterally. And that was the Red Wings' second goal in the final minute of a period.
For the Ducks, now it comes to center ice. Samuelson with it. Gets Pesterling, gets the tower, scores! Michael Samuelson!
The Ducks would get one back, but nobody remembers that. This is what anybody with a pulse remembers.
They both wear visors, they take the visors off. The linesman started to come in, but he's going to let him go. Boschman with the left hand. Oh, he catches Kopecki with a couple.
I'm sure the Ducks and their fans appreciate Boschman's bout, but his beleaguered buddies bestowed a breezy buzzer beater for the battling Benrik Betterberg. And that's all she wrote. Beery's bide. In case you were wondering, Detroit had kind of been working over the Ducks, play-driving-wise. It's not that Anaheim wasn't pressuring Osgood, they were doing fine. It's just that the Red Wings were doing way better, consistently so. They would have to reverse that trend at the Joe to avoid being up against a wall for the first time in the playoffs. Under a minute in, Johan Franzen smacked one off the post. If he continued to molest Hiller's psyche there again, who knows how the rest of this game goes. Jonas Hiller himself was the busiest bee in the first.
The fly here. Here's a great pass, Filppula off the post, and now Cleary coaching at center, working against Pronger, and Cleary stopped by Hiller, and he'll send it down the ice, and Pompey on it with a chance.
The Red Wings gave the Ducks nothing, less than a quarter of an expected goal at 5-on-5 in the first period. The second was more of the same. Brick wall Hiller, milquetoast Ducks. But some things are just inevitable.
And to the attack goes Getzlaff. Carter was loose on the left side. The pass didn't arrive, and now 3 Red Wings back. Abdelkader on this side. Franzen with a move, scores! Johan Franzen, the mule, gets another kick.
Ryan Whitney overcommits to Franzen, and Abdelkader cuts right to the net, drawing Sheldon Brookbank deep in the slot. And Franzen knows right where to go. Here's something nutty. If you take away all of Johan Franzen's goals to date in this series, Detroit would be down a full third of their goals. Usually that kind of carrying means it's kind of a weak spot for secondary scoring. But these are the 2000s Red Wings. They're anything but usual.
Icebreaker and Datsuk back to work. Here's Datsuk barging right in. Oh, and a stop by Hiller. Franzen is 7th. Abdelkader and Eriksson and another chance. Stop, rebound, scores! 2-0 Detroit.
If this series was played today, there's no way Hoodler would have been allowed to play after the Brown hit, but damn, mid-air goals like this are so cool and so rare. What better way to exact revenge? The Wings' confidence was through the roof.
Steal. And it flipped into the corner. Evan jolted there. He was hit by Holmstrom. Now moving up, Cronwall fires right on.
And confidence and creativity are personified in Pavel Datsyuk, who tried this to no avail, unfortunately. The Ducks got absolutely nothing going. The second period saw them produce less than a fifth of a 5v5 expected goal for.
Ryan Whitney, shot, scores! There's his first as a Duck, and Anaheim has a power play.
Suffocated at even strength, Anaheim had to rely on their power play to even hope for a competitive game, denting Osgood after Anaheim's only 10th shot on goal.
It's in front, Christensen, oh what a stop! Osgood robbing Christensen!
But historically, the restful pause of intermission could be a boon for shifting momentum. The Ducks would have to meet historical chance halfway if they were going to avoid facing elimination. Here's an idea of how that went. Through the first two periods, Anaheim had a 27.2 and a 27.5 expected goals for percentage. In the third period, that percentage was 9.
And the Red Wings are out, and here's Hossa, sprung, Marian Hossa, what a clutch stop!
Get energy from their power play earlier.
Here's Helm with Hudler, Helm! Back for Hossa. He goes to the net, jamming, and Hiller makes the stop. Did not leave the zone. Hossa again, stopped by Helm. And now Helm. Here's Helm on his own with a little move on Pronger. Oh, he's got Cronwall in front. Hits the post, third post. Swivels net shot off the side. Darren Helm's got it. He comes in front, can't get a good shot. Loose in front of the net, rebound, scores! The youngster Helm has got the goal, and Detroit has a 3-1 lead. Net is empty, 1 minute remaining. Getzlaf quickly on Datsyuk, but he maintained possession. 2-on-1, net empty. Zetterberg had an empty netter. The last game, he's got another, and it's 4-1 Detroit.
The end of the game saw yet more between the whistle shenanigans. The two teams had been warring with each other in all kinds of nasty ways since Game 1, but now the Ducks' antics began to stink of desperation, as they rightly should. Remember how the Ducks had let the Wings run amok? Well, that didn't change in Game 5. No more excuses for them. Backs to the wall. What appeared like it could have been the start of another Cinderella run was all of a sudden dying a slow, painful death. The first highlightable shift from this game is everything we've come to expect from this brutal series.
By Cronwall went down, and now Savani puts on the brakes, gets by a man, shoots, and he melts it wide. Made a nice move, and then Cleary knocks Talani down.
The Ducks' showing was leagues better than in Game 5, no doubt due to the venue change. But it's important to note, they weren't playing with the balls to the wall reckless abandon symptomatic of a team on the edge. Not anymore. They were the clear underdog, and they knew they weren't there by accident. They were playing with intensity, but not fear. And at long last, it paid off, and the Wings were the ones who made an uncharacteristic error.
Mishandled the puck, wraparound was blocked. Oh, Bobby Ryan, not sure what that hit. Now the puck is sent over the glass again. Now Getzlaf turns, hands it back to Pronger. Far side, Scott Niedermeyer to the net. Save, rebound, and score! And carved up a couple of bodies in front.
Again, Anaheim's meat and potatoes power play keeps them alive.
Tap it here again. Here is Ryan Carter to the net. Save, made by Osgood.
And Hiller, once again, was stopping everything that came his way.
Hands it off, backhand shot by Timmerson. Save, rebound, chance fire. Winds up, goes back to Datsyuk, top of the circle. Sends it across here. Zetterberg with a shot. May have hit the goal post. Could have won that game in 5 games. Yep. Here's a chance. Lindstrom, oh, and a save by Hiller.
Halfway through regulation, a bad retaliation penalty stopped the Ducks' momentum in their tracks.
Lindstrom with a drive and a save by Hiller. And he hangs out to Scott Niedermeyer. It's all over Thomas Holmstrom, about 15 feet out in front of the net. Up here by Hossa. Hossa centering pass and a diving play on the far side by Corey Perry. Now Getzlaf hands it off for Solani. Or rather to Ryan. Here's a shot.
Back-breaking goal towards the end of the second period. Now the Ducks would have to weather a storm from the 2000s Red Wings. Unfortunately, their third period expected goals for percentage was even more abysmal than the last game.
Moving away from Solani, up to the line now. Cronwall works it in deep there. He hands it off, a shot here through traffic from Hudler is stopped. Across the line. Gets the shot away up high. And going to Johnson and Marchand. Now it's Datsuk has it. Datsuk hands it off for Filppula down low. Backhand shot, Hiller the save.
You cannot sleep on this era's Red Wings. 2 goals in a period is nothing to them, and you better believe that they're going to take advantage of 9%.
Not enough to get it out of the zone. Down low, center pass, score! Just like that, Franz in redirection.
Fortunately for the Ducks, and for the series, the Red Wings weren't as great of a threat to the Ducks as time was to the Wings.
Center right for Falski, just trying to find open ice, gets it into the Anaheim zone, but Scott Niedermayer moves it to Getzlaf. Getzlaf trying to clear one last time, blocked by Hossa. What a save! Jonas!
Getzlaf starts to sucker Hossa after the whistle. Perry and Rafalski fight, and then Getzlaf goes after Hossa again, but initially missed on the live feed was this gargantuan, blatant wind-up elbow to the face from Niedermayer on Datsuk. I don't know if Datsuk did anything to deserve this or if Niedermayer just lost his temper, but that is very bad. Somehow, there was no discipline for any of this. Interesting. It may feel kind of surprising to find that we're already at Game 7. Watching this series, it didn't really feel like there was that much of a build-up to the climax that would be the winner-take-all game. But that's a credit to the intensity of this bout. It was so belligerent that it was easy to lose track of what the actual series score was. It's very likely, if you were a fan, that there were long periods of time where you were blind to the status of the series and were so upset or slighted that you just wanted to make sure your team got the next goal, or just won this game. Great hockey really makes you invest in the micro of a series, even at the expense of the macro. But now, there is no loss of pretense. No adrenaline-induced myopia. Here we are, at the end. True to form, opposing star players got into it right out of the gates. If you were looking for finesse hockey to dominate in the most important game of the season, you were looking in the wrong place, brother. I mean, just watch this clip you're seeing. There's so much holding and accidental contact. It's like a game from a decade prior, which, coincidentally, would have been the stomping grounds for one particular Red Wing.
Zetterberg stepping in front of his man, but couldn't time the puck. Penalty coming against Detroit. Center pass, Leduc giving a chance. What a save! What a save by Osgood on the delayed penalty.
This effort was about 2 calories away from being a classic full windmill save by Osgood. He was 36 and coming off his statistically worst season to date, but you'd never guess. Unfortunately, Osgood was the only welcome dead puck era throwback. The Wings got busted for 2 obstruction penalties early and faced a critical 5-on-3. And we got a super long stretch of play without a whistle. Pronger falls down after getting a shot blocked, sending Datsuk the other way. Hiller makes a good save and smartly pushes play back up the ice. Datsuk comes all the way back to strip Corey Perry of the puck and the Ducks of a scoring chance, but they fail to clear. The Ducks take their sweet time, tiring out the PK unit. They finally shoot, but it's a muffin, and Datsuk clears. But Hiller throws it right back at them on a change. Cleary beats 2 Ducks to the loose puck to uproarious applause.
Back into the Anaheim zone, and there's 45 seconds left of the Cromwell penalty. Now it's recovered by Cleary. He takes a hit along the boards, didn't get it out of there. Ryan Whitney drops it back to the line. Wisniewski's low shot. Rebound chance for Carter. He fired it wide.
Watch.
He did.
Along the boards.
Zetterberg, big hit. He knew it was coming from Ryan Whitney, but he took the hit and made the clear.
Back at even, Jonas Hiller again was always equal to the task.
On the break, hands it off now. Here is Hooker, dropped it back front, driving a save by Hiller. And Cleary here and farms it into the zone, hands it off for Zetterberg, but it's blocked by Perry. Here is Cleary with it again. Now for Cromwell with a drive, and not sure what that hit in front, but now Hossa, top of the circle, takes a look with a wrist shot, and a glove save by Hiller.
But he can only do so much.
Slides it across on the far side. Here's Franz, centering pass, score! Yuri Hudler with the redirection on the power play of the Red Wings. Have a 1-0 lead in Game 7.
Hudler had already got some revenge against the Ducks, but a Game 7 goal is on another level. The Wings had been outplaying the Ducks in the game so far, and if they could finally crack Hiller, the game would be theirs, surely. At the next stoppage, Ryan Getzlaf calmly and politely asked Johan Franzen to return him his hairline. The Red Wings just kept pouring it on.
Now it comes to Solani on the left wing board. Solani had it knocked away and it rolls to center ice. Could be a break here for the beady Darren Helm. He's in behind everybody. Scores!
Teemu Selanne gets the puck stripped from him as he's facing south, and the puck goes to exactly the wrong spot. And Darren Helm, renowned Avalanche, made no mistake with all eyes on him. Nothing Hiller could do here. 2-goal deficits in Game 7 are really, really rarely overcome. The Ducks had been dancing along the line of oblivion all playoffs and even back into the regular season, but they always managed to come back from it. You have to think, at some point, it's just gotta be one time too many. But not this time.
To the board, goes back to the point. Big hit on Selanne.
And now it's going to be interference.
A stupid interference penalty on Brad Stewart gave the Ducks an opening. And that, again, was all they needed.
Now Getzlaf with a shot. That was blocked. Zetterberg gets to it. He clears just as Thorstmann comes out. It's a 5-on-3 now. 12 seconds left on the Stewart penalty. Here's Selanne again. Here, and this Evans shot is turned aside by Osgood. But this play is offside. You play hard in the regular season. If you have a Game 7, you want this kind of home ice advantage. Now Brookbank sends it up the right side. Here's Selanne. Selanne drops it back for Ryan Whitney with a drive. Osgood run into. Loose puck. Tucked in by Selanne. What a play by Teemu Selanne.
Quick hands never really leave you. Just like Niedermayer, Pronger, Osgood, and Lidstrom, Teemu Selanne was just as much of a wily old fart, and he proved here that thundering after the puck like a bloodhound, especially after an odd bounce, is absolutely crucial to playoff goal scoring. At his age, the effect that he's had on the Ducks' playoff hopes is nothing short of impressive. But his team still trailed.
Who finally has it, hands it up, Datsyuk, what a save! Datsyuk still not on the scoreboard, what a hit, rebound, score! Huge hit! But the front of the net was left.
This is what TV tropes would call a hope spot for the Ducks. A cruel moment of fleeting hope that is snuffed out absolutely post-haste. And it was like Selanne's goal had never been scored. I will say it again, at some point, the 09 Anaheim Ducks will have played with fire one too many times. And that very well could have been it. But it wasn't. Not yet.
And it is cleared by Detroit.
Pronger got away with one. That's a second cross-check he's got away with in this one.
Here's Selanne now with a loose puck. Selanne hands it off for a one-timer. Save, rebound, score! Corey Perry knocks it home. And the Ducks do take advantage.
Color commentary put it perfectly.
The nasty Anaheim Ducks cash it in. That makes it very, very galling. It's like a title fight, which is exactly what it is. The last two Stanley Cup champs going toe-to-toe.
Here is Rob Niedermayer. Save, rebound, given up. Evan Evans up another chance, and Osgood stop three. Still no whistle as the puck has not been tied up.
If the Ducks couldn't beat the Wings dynasty alone, they'd have to call on the powers that be. And doggone it, they listened.
Eriksson, unfortunate, stepped on a broken stick that was left there. Now a centering pass comes to the front of the net, picked up by the Ducks. They score! All of this because of a stick that was on the ice that Jonathan Eriksson could not.
Nobody can sidestep chaos, not even Detroit. And Osgood and his mates bore the full brunt of Brad Stewart's lifeless twig. It's a brand new game. I've been a fan of the Capitals long enough to know that if you blow a multi-goal lead at home in the playoffs, you're gonna lose. The fate of either team hung in the balance. Each with opposite histories and characters, each with so much to lose, and each with so little time.
Under 4 minutes to go now in regulation time. It feels like overtime. Here is Lidstrom with it. Lidstrom hands it off now for Franz, and Franz between the circles, and Zetterberg. One-timer was blocked. It goes to Zetterberg again. Chases it down to the corner. Tries to get it in front. He did! It's in! The Red Wings score! Dan Cleary will get the goal with exactly 3 minutes remaining here in the third period.
Here's a question for you. If this goal is scored in 2023, is it goaltender interference? Heck, was it goaltender interference then? I really don't know. I can't tell if Hiller was squeezing the pads together himself or if Cleary pushed them over. I just don't know. In any case, it doesn't matter, I suppose. History says that Dan Cleary scored this goal clean. Eventually, the Anaheim Ducks will have trod on thin ice one time too many.
Ryan Whitney. That was blocked. Red Wings get the clear to center ice.
Eventually, it will be too much to come back from. And this time, it was.
Turned aside by Osgood. Hiller still on the ice. Centering pass by Getzlaf was blocked. Hiller wanted to get to the bench, but the Red Wings have it. Into the Detroit zone, and here is Getzlaf. Slides it across, but there was nobody there for Anaheim. Hiller has gone to the bench. Empty net. Solani across the center ice line. He didn't get it deep. It was blocked by Johan Franzen. Long pass now to Corey Perry. Gets it into the zone, but it's knocked away. 15 seconds remaining. The faceoff comes back to Pronger. Pronger toward the net. Loose puck is cleared away. It's outside the line. And the Detroit Red Wings, the defending Stanley Cup champions, will go to the Western Conference Final against the Chicago Blackhawks as they hang on and win this.
It would only be another 5 short years until the NHL was again treated to a series between the last 2 Stanley Cup champions. And that came in the 2014 Western Conference Finals between the 2012 champion Kings and the 2013 champion Blackhawks, in what many consider the greatest series ever since the lockout. But as for 2009, this was one Cinderella story that was never meant to be. One goal away from another conference finals, the Ducks just couldn't overcome being constantly outplayed, and they were constantly outplayed. But as fate would have it, or as fate's instrument Jonas Hiller would have it, we would not be denied a full 7-game series between these banner teams that would stand the test of time. For the first time in the playoffs past compendium, I will unashamedly say that the team that deserved to win did. Equally unashamedly, the Ducks lost to the Red Wings, whom I've spoken about countless times before with so much deserving reverence because they were the best. And they just didn't stop winning.